Never give up. You're about to listen to the Darla Z, live from the Hollywood Room on the Bootleggers Music Group Radio. Award-winning singer-songwriter Darla Z brings you her special guests who share intimate stories about their lives, how they became successful in their chosen fields, how they learned from their mistakes, and how we can all make a positive difference in the lives of others. Welcome to Live from the Hollywood Room with your host, Darla Z.
Hi, this is Darla Z, and I'm coming to you live from the Hollywood Room. I have an incredible, exciting show planned for you. Actually, it's going to be a three-part series with the legendary and famous Peter Lamas, an expert on beauty like none other. His list of clients is like the who's who in the world of entertainment and prominent people, and he's got a wonderful line of beauty products that we're going to be talking about. He's got expertise in makeup and hair and aging and or anti-aging rather. Some of his clients have included Reese Witherspoon, Diana Ross, Rhiana. It's an amazing list of who's who. And what is this guy's name? His name is Peter Lamas. Peter, thank you for coming on my show and welcome.
Darla, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And you've got me now. So I'm all yours.
Well, I mean, I could just be asking about beauty advice for the next 3 hours, but I don't know that that's really what we're here for. So I'm going to kick off I'd like to know, for instance, let's just start off with where you were born. Let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the very beginning.
I'm all ears when you listen. I love your singing. I've known you for a while, and I appreciate the singing. So yes, let's start at the beginning as you requested. Oh my goodness, we're going way back here. I was born and raised in Havana, Cuba, a very exotic island that I love dearly. And let me turn my phone off so that it doesn't interrupt. And I lived in Havana, Cuba until the age of 17, where I left for political reasons to come to the US. And I've been here ever since, except recently, I want to tell you, 2 years ago, my oldest son invited me to go back after many decades for the first time. And I had the most wonderful experience of my life.
When did you go there?
I lived 2 years ago.
Okay.
On my birthday's in April. So I went 2 years ago in April, and nothing had changed. I was in a time capsule where everything was the way I left it, where my high school was, where I lived. Everything was just exactly. Wow. And because of the embargo, they haven't done much with the improvement of the whole island. And so it was quite an emotional experience for me. And but I loved it, had a wonderful time and great memories.
So you came here at the age of 17, and where did you go?
I went directly from Cuba. I didn't go like most of the Cubans to Miami. I went to New York, and my father, my mother, myself. It was just the three of us at the very beginning. And my godfather lived in New York, and he was a very famous chef at the time in one of the major hotels, and sponsored us. And we went to New York, and I have a wonderful experience to share with you. Landing in New York, it was in late November, freezing cold weather. Never experienced that living in Havana, Cuba, in the Caribbean. Winter there is not like in New York. Let's be there. And it was so cold, we had no clothing, because you can't take, when you left Cuba at that time for political reasons, you were allowed to take what you wore, and that's it. I mean, no luggage, no money, no jewelry, nothing that you could have meaningful memories and usefulness. So we landed in New York. We went to Miami. From Miami, we took a train to New York and got to Penn Station. He picked us up, and it was ice cold. It was so cold. And he took us immediately to Macy's. And I walked into Macy's, which is the largest department store in this country, in the world, I think, except for maybe Paris and London. And it was such an impressive and also experience to walk in and not being able to even afford a cup of coffee. He was so generous. He bought us coats and, warm clothing to just get our lives started. Who was to say with that experience at the age of 17 and 206, 26, okay? Not that long ago, was it? About 14 years now. I have my own line of personal care products called Peter Lamas Organics. And it's a range of hair care, face, skin care, and body care, all organic, natural, healthy, and it's performance-driven products. I'm very proud to say because I demand a lot from my products. But anyway, we launched in Macy's in 2006. And I walked into Macy's after so many years of not visiting that department store. And I see my photograph hanging from the ceilings of Macy's all over the lower, level of the department store, leading the way to where the new space was for personal care products that was all natural and organic. And we were among a number of brands, but it was our time to make a big splash. And I got my PR firm to go there with news people, and I invited a lot of the models that I'd worked with to do me a favor to show up too and make it a big to-do. But as I walked in, I remember the 17-year-old boy walking into the department store, scared to death, not speaking the language, not a penny on me or my parents to help get a cup of coffee, as I said earlier. And I stood there watching all this, and I just started weeping. And this woman from behind the counter comes out with a box of tissues saying, "Oh, here, why are you crying? Can I help you?" And I'm going, and she, "Oh my God, this is you. Oh, you're all emotional." I said, I wanted to say, you don't understand what I'm going through right now, experiencing the 17-year-old boy that was so inhibited and scared and frightened. And here I am today, and my photographs are hanging all over the bottom floor of the Macy's. So that was quite an interesting story for me to share with you as far as what can happen in this great country of ours, and you have the desire to live life and make it all worthwhile.
Yeah, and you are the epitome of the American dream, because you did come here penniless and with a dream. And boy, howdy, did you achieve it. And it is impressive, Peter. And then your love of mankind and how you want to, this show is all about being beautiful from the inside and out. And
Yes.
your whole mission since you came to America, and probably likely before when you were dreaming of what you wanted to be, was about that, about helping people. So, it's just it's motivational and very impressive.
Thank you. Yes, it's been a wonderful experience. And yes, my God-given talent, I was able to work with to be able to create a life, to earn a living, and to get me where I am today. And it's been a wonderful journey.
Well, so let's now dive right in with your experience. So you went to cosmetology school in New York, right?
When I got here, I barely spoke the language, as I told you, and the only job I could get, I could read a little bit of English as a messenger, going through.
What's a what? I didn't hear
you. Messenger.
Oh, okay, messenger.
But I worked in Midtown Manhattan, where all the advertising agencies were at the time, and this was in the early 60s. So if you saw the program Mad Men about advertising, well, that's where I was working as a messenger, and I was working and going into all these different agencies that are so famous, trying to deliver envelopes and packages, picking them up, going from one to the other. And that's how I spoke and learned English. And I'm an artist myself, so I saw the opportunity. I said, this is where I want to be. I want to be a commercial artist. And I asked, there was a gentleman there, head of one of the companies, Gray Advertising, in fact, I still remember it. And I said to him, my ambition is one day to work for a company like yours. I'm good at art. And what should I do? He says, well, you go to school, go to art school, and learn as much as you can. And I said, well, right now, I don't know if I don't know where to go. He says, why don't you begin with the Art Students League in New York? They have scholarship programs that they can teach you, and there's a very fine art school on 57th Street and 6th Avenue. And that's where I went, and I was able to get in, got a scholarship, which I'll tell you about later, how all that worked out, who are the donors giving that scholarship. And I started working there, and the girls who couldn't afford to go to a beauty salon or any place to get haircuts, the young ladies that were working, you know, young kids like myself, what needed haircuts, and I said, oh, let me try it because I needed. I'm a sculptor. I mean, it's not a big deal for me to cut hair. I've done it quite a number of times in Cuba, and I was cutting my mother's hair and so forth. Just out of not being trained, I just had it in me. And so I cut the hair. They said, why don't you go to beauty school? You could probably earn a lot more money and tips working at a salon and going at night to this school than working as a messenger during the day and coming at night, and you're barely making a living. And I said, you know what, that sounds interesting. So I went and applied to beauty school. I got a scholarship there also. I graduated. To make a long story short, everybody said, well, what salon are you going to work with? I said, no. I barely know anything coming out of beauty school. I want to learn more. And in Cuba and Europe and most countries, you become an apprentice in a fine salon and they train you. You don't have to go to school like you do here. But in any case, I did what was supposed to be able to get a license. And then I applied. I said, what are the best salons? I always think big, Darla.
I completely understand that.
Yeah, I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to the corner beauty salon to start learning. And they said, well, you have Vidal Sassoon, who just started in America, opened up his first salon on Madison Avenue. And you have Kenneth Townhouse, which is the next big salon. And those are the two big entities that are impressive. So I went to both of them. I applied at both of them. I bought a suit, borrowed money to buy a suit to look good, make a good impression. Walked into each one, filled out an application. And I barely could speak English, but I did pretty well. And it was all about the talent, though. When you walk in there, you have a good appearance, but they'll put you through a test. And so I went to Vidal and Kenneth, but Vidal liked me immediately. And they said, can you come back? This was like middle of the week, the beginning of this week, Monday or Tuesday. In the late afternoon, bring a model and we're going to test you. And if you qualify, you'll begin working here immediately. I went, oh my God, thank you. And I got one of the girls from the school to volunteer as my model. I had to do 3 different cuts. She had to go from very long to middle to short. Oh, I had to find this young lady who was willing to sacrifice her hair.
No kidding.
To have the opportunity to try to get into Vidal Sassoon, which was the big deal back in New York at that time. He was only there for about 7 months when I knocked at the door and said, please, I'd like to work for you. And so I brought the model. I did so well in what I was doing because I was very good at school. Doing everything from hair coloring to straightening to cutting to setting to styling, putting up hair and all kinds of stuff that goes on in the beauty salons. They were quite impressed. So I was hired immediately. And Kenneth, at the same time that week, calls me and says, would you like to come and audition? I call it audition for us. I said, I just auditioned for Vidal Sassoon and he hired me. So Michael, who I still remember his name, the manager of Kenneth, says, oh my God, good luck, congratulations. I'm sorry we took longer than we should have because I like what you represented and you would be your image and personality would fit very well with the clientele we have at Kenneth. And that clientele was the mecca of society in New York City, where Vidal Sassoon did the hip models and, photographers and rock and rollers and all that, whereas Kenneth did more of the society ambiance. So I started at Vidal Sassoon, to make a long story short, and created a 3-year career there before Kenneth called me one day and said, we haven't lost your number. Would you come and meet with me? This was 3 years later. Same guy, Michael. I said, why do you want me to come by? He says, I have an offer that you might not be able to refuse. And I showed up and the offer was so amazing that I resigned from Vidal Sassoon and went to Kenneth. Paul Mitchell was the one Vidal Sassoon and Paul Mitchell at Vidal Sassoon trained me. So they were my mentors. And yes, I gave my 3-year participation with everything I had to show off and with gratitude and appreciation. But then Kenneth gave me an offer I couldn't refuse, and I joined Kenneth. And I was already kind of, they put me at the upper level of what I call the startup for stylists. And I started doing these big names and celebrities, Elizabeth Taylor. I mean, we could go on later on with all these grand dames that were walking in there. They were so famous. And that to me was quite an impression, to get to know these people that you see on the screen and read about in the newspapers, and politicians and presidents' wives. And I mean, wow, this whole universe was so totally different from this kid who came as and all of a sudden I'm in the upper echelon of New York society and dealing with all these incredible icons.
Well, so when it's Kenneth Townhouse, what was the name of the salon?
His name is Kenneth Townhouse, but it was just called the House of Kenneth, or Vidal Sassoon's.
And when you went to work with Kenneth, how old were you? Because you were what, 21, 22?
Oh no, I at the time when I started with Kenneth, I must have been about 25 by then.
Okay. Okay, so you were with Vidal Sassoon for 3 years. So you're 17, you get to New York, and then you go to
2 years
school.
later.
Okay.
3 years later, I joined Sassoon. And then, well, those 3 years, then after that, I joined Kenneth and stayed there for quite a while. But then I'm there at Kenneth for maybe 4 years. I don't have a long run in these places because Paul Mitchell just went to Henry Bendel's, is a major famous department store in New York City. And he was in charge of the beauty salon at Bendel's. He just took over and called me. He said, Peter, I trained you. I think you're so talented. I just started running the salon at Bendel's. I would like you to be a superstar. I swear, he said one of my superstars at Bendel's. I said, okay, now you're tempting me, but I'm happy at Kenneth. He said, no, come and meet me. And we had dinner 1 or 2 days later after that phone call. And he then gave me another offer that I couldn't refuse. And now I'm making a good deal of money all over the place. And I'm married and I have a son. And now we're going to buy a home for the first time in my life. I'm going to own a home. I'm doing quite well at Bendel's. And there I am working next to Paul Mitchell, who trained me. Life sometimes, as long as you don't burn your bridges, you'll keep meeting the same people sometimes over and over in different, I would say, good situations.
Well, I think it's amazing that you made such an impression at a young age with Kenneth that 3 years later, he picks up the phone and calls you, that's incredible in and of itself. But, then you fast forward to Mitchell, but the clients that you serviced while at Kenneth's were amazing.
Some of them followed, and some of them followed me. Liza Minnelli was one that followed me from Vidal to Kenneth to Andrew Bendel's.
I'm a huge Liza Minnelli fan. I don't know if you remember when we met years ago, we produced Frank Sinatra in concert, and the agent that produced Frank, or the agent that represented Frank, was also Liza Minnelli's. And we had talked about doing a Liza Minnelli show with her, and I could kick myself for not doing it because we always regretted it. She was an incredible artist. But besides Liza Minnelli, then you also, Grace Kelly.
I've worked with Grace.
At that time, was she Princess Grace at that time, or was she?
She was Princess Grace, yes, because
Princess Grace. Wow.
I met her in the mid-late 60s. So I did her for a number of major events that she went to New York and to participate in, charity events. And I did her for one of the covers at Vogue magazine for the December issue. So I had I got to know her. I'm not going to say I was a personal hairstylist, but in about 4 occasions, I was able to do her hair. You know how I got to work with her? I was very fortunate at Kenneth to meet Jackie Kennedy Onassis. And my first impression.
Wait. Who did you say? You said that too fast. You got to slow her down. Who was it?
Okay, I'm going to go back. Bear with me. Okay, when I landed in this country late November, remember I told you the story about Macy's and how to buy a coat and so forth.
Yeah.
That was my first impression of the U.S. Well, January was the time that Kennedy was inaugurated. So I
Yes.
watched the party that was
President Kennedy.
President John F. Kennedy was inaugurated at that year in 1961, becoming president of the United States. And I'm watching on black and white TV in the home of my godfather, who was still living with until we got our own apartment, be able to afford our own apartment. And made such a great impression watching this couple that I found to be so regal, especially Jackie Kennedy. She
Class. Pure class.
created only in America. This is 1961, and now it's 1968. And Kenneth says to me, who happens to be her hairstylist, says to me, I want you to start, because Jackie wanted someone go into her apartment often to do her hair. She didn't want to come all the way to the salon, and she didn't have the time and the kids and the whatever. Kenneth doesn't do that. He says, you're going to take over my Jackie, and you're going to go to her apartment. When she comes here, she comes to me, but when she needs you and go into her apartment, that's you, not me. So I started doing that. She loved the way I did her hair. We got very, we didn't become friends, but there was a mutual professional relationship that she had a lot of confidence in me, not only in the way I styled her hair very often, and also worked on her children, but also, you know, as a stylist, you become a therapist also. And
Absolutely.
She's not one to talk to everybody or the press or anything, but with me, she shared a lot of stories, which I've just recently, 2 weeks ago, finished the book. And I have 2 chapters on Jackie, and some of what she shared with me, which was very moving and very personal, it's in the book. And some of it, which when I put it in the book, I became a little frightened about my own safety, because you'd be surprised what women will tell a hairstylist.
I'm a woman, Peter. I get it.
And it was
it's like the wheels come off and you just tell your stylist everything. You're right. It's like being a therapist. So I can only imagine what all you heard from Jackie Kennedy.
It'll leave your jaw wide open. And at the same time, I've had an interesting life, because my father-in-law, my wife's father, was in the shipping industry. He's Greek, and he was doing business with Onassis Onassis and Niarchos. And when Jackie married Onassis, she knew already my father-in-law's connection, because I also shared with her so many issues with having to do with my life. But she asked a lot about my personal life. I was doing her hair at the apartment. She was very curious about me. But I'm sure for a number of reasons, not just because she just wanted to be Snoopy. Okay, snooping, I should say. And snooping. That's my Spanish. I got to the point where she says to me, I'm going to share something with you that's very private, and I don't want no one knowing this, but I will ask you a major favor. She says, keep this a secret. You promise? I said, of course, you have my total confidence, and I will not share anything. And she knew that already. She says, I'm getting married in 2 weeks with Onassis, Aristotle Onassis. I'm sure you've read in the papers, I'm going out with them. I go back and forth to the island of Scorpios and blah, blah, blah. But I want you to fly to Scorpios, come with us, and I want you to do my hair for the wedding.
Oh, wow.
I was so honored. Oh my God, I was coming out of my skin. So I go to my wife. I'll make this long story short. And I said to her, in 2 weeks, I'm going to visit your father in Greece briefly, and then I'm going to stay there for a little bit and coming back. She said, why are you going to Greece? I said, I can't tell you.
Take care of a little thing.
But you're trying to tell your husband, if your husband tells you that, and I can't tell you, what are you going to do? You're going to bring his neck and shake him and say, you better, I'm your wife. What do you mean you can't tell me? And that's exactly what she said. She says, I'm your wife. Why are you keeping it a secret? I said, I can't tell you. I swore I would never admit anything that I just learned. She says, oh, no. Wait, this is, and she just wouldn't give up. And I said, okay, promise me. I had to do the same thing to her. You're not going to reveal this. And I told her what the situation was. She calls her father in Greece and tells, oh, Peter's coming over to do, at least don't say for what, No, she says, to do Jackie's wedding. Now, my father-in-law's like a brother to Maria Callas, the famous opera singer. She was the biggest opera singer in the world at the time. She still is to this day. Angelina Jolie right now is filming a movie based on her life as we speak. And and I know the woman too. I've been with her because of my father's relationship with Maria Callas. They grew up together as children in New York, and then she went back to Greece and became the biggest thing in opera. And she's dating Onassis, and she doesn't know it. And my father, nobody knew it. And my father-in-law, I can't do that. She's like my sister. I have to tell her. I said, no, don't tell her, because if she knows, Jack is going to know where it came from, because I already opened up my mouth about my connections with you and Maria and Onassis. You know, this whole whirlpool started, you know, it became a Greek tragedy. And anyway, that's all in the book.
The big fat royal wedding.
But the wedding went through. I didn't get fired. Nobody got upset. But it's all in the book. It's a very interesting tale that I'm sharing.
And you know what? I would love to have a picture of her hair that you did.
Oh, I can send it to you. Yes, it wasn't all the paper.
I would love that.
I wanted to do something fancy and put it
and
up.
We'll include it in the show.
Okay. No, I'm putting her hair up. She says, no, I want something simple and plain. I said, you brought me to Greece to just comb your hair, hanging down with a little bow in the back. She said, that's all I want. Now, I'm not going to fight her. She's my client, and I don't want to insult the woman, and she's Jackie Kennedy. But I'm saying, here I am thinking of all the different updos that I want to do for her that look elegant and special, and I'm looking at her gown and blah, blah, blah. And she says, we're not going there. We just simple down. I said to myself, you could have hired your maid and comb your hair and put a bow on it. You didn't need me to fly.
So who won? Who won the argument? Jackie?
She did. Look at the photos. They're just, plain Jane. I don't get it.
Well, she was so beautiful. She didn't need to do anything, but I can understand you wanting to do
your wedding. And I could do it in an elegant way. It doesn't have to be crazy, just something soft, elegant, sophisticated. No.
Yeah, I saw you sent me the picture of what you did for Reese Witherspoon for the Oscars recently, and it was stunning.
Did you see the wave pattern that I told you? I was waiting for her to get done by the makeup artist.
Yes.
Overlooking the ocean in her Malibu place, and all of a sudden I see the waves coming and going, and I'm saying, oh my God, I got an idea. And I created this beautiful hairdo that looks like a wave pattern. And she says to me, I think I shared this already with you, she says, I went to the Oscars. I wore the most gorgeous gown. I had this beautiful jewelry that I borrowed, and no one paid attention except for my hair. Everybody kept asking me, who did your hair? It looks beautiful. I'm saying, but look at the rest. No, it was all about your hair. Hair stole the show.
Hey, you know what better calling card is that?
Right.
We're talking about these beautiful women, and the list is endless. We haven't even touched on Whitney Houston and Diana Ross and some of those women. And I think later on, we're going to be going into more detail on your relationship with them. But you and I have talked about that one of the things that I struggle with and have always struggled with is my own perception of myself and never feeling like
here we go.
Never feeling like I'm good enough, or I need to lose weight, I need to do this, and it's been around forever, and then I see these women that have so much self-confidence, and I think to myself, boy, I wish I had that. But let's narrow it down, because we're going to talk about that more later on how to get that self-confidence from your involvement with the lady who owned Vogue. But these women that we've talked about, or not, some of the beautiful women that you've worked with that were models and runway models and Victoria's Secret and all that. Tell me how they perceived themselves.
Here we go. Okay, you got my attention because I was so happy to do this interview with you. Not to brag about myself and the people I've done and all that. I mean, it's impressive, but it gets to a point, even when I go to other shows, they always want to ask me about who I've done and who I've worked on. And there's more to my career than just dropping names of celebrities. If you try
Absolutely.
to going with all this, it's about my connection with a human being, how I see them. What do I want to create that will benefit them as far as an image of, and creating self-confidence and self-awareness and helping them feel good about themselves? Because one thing, most of my clientele in my 45-year career has been women. I've done men, but mostly the great majority have been women. And I've always said, I have a saying, if only our eyes saw souls instead of bodies, how very different our ideals of beauty would be.
Gosh,
And
can you say
something-
that again? Because that is such a truism.
It is. It's something that we're so wrapped up in the image of the makeup and the hair and how tall, how this, how she's. It's all about, there's more to a human being than just getting made up, if you know what I'm saying. I'll repeat it. You asked me, if only our eyes saw souls instead of bodies, how very different our ideals of beauty would be.
Gosh, I love that.
To me,
That's
that's
just, I'm
very
almost brings
important.
tears to my eyes.
Yes, to me, that's very important because working with people, famous or not famous, I see them as human beings. I don't see them because, oh, you're Elizabeth Taylor and you're Grace Kelly and you're Audrey Hepburn and you're Diana Ross and you're Pink and you're this one and you're that one and Whitney. And I mean, I've had everybody coming through these hands working on them. And yet I don't see them because of their famous so-called personalities. I see them mostly as a human being. What can I do with them to enhance their image, to bring out the best in them? It begins with the hair. I look at the hair, the texture of hair, the length of hair, the color of hair. Then I look at the shape of their face, the bone structure. I make them stand up. I look at them to see how, the frame of the body. It's all working as a program in my head, like a computer. Oh, okay, this is how I'm seeing, and this is what I can do with what I got to work with. If you have poor quality skin, I've always recommend, because that's my canvas, to use good skincare and a good approach to maintaining your skin so that when you yourself or someone like me applies makeup, we don't have to overdo the makeup to cover the imperfection of the quality of your skin. I want something that is subtle, that brings out the natural beauty without saying, like an inside, look at me, I have a lot of makeup. No, that wasn't my intention ever. When I do makeup, unless it's for theatrical or movies, which the lighting demands that heavy-handed approach to makeup, which I don't like to begin with. I always try to soften it a little bit no matter what. It is about studying the person, learning about the person. I always ask, what is it that you like or don't like? Because I can change you, but if you're not ready for change, even though you're there for change, how many times have women have told me, well, not that many, because I learned very quickly at the beginning, I like what you've done, but that's not me. All of a sudden I said, Peter, you got to take her baby steps. Let's begin with the hair first. Come next week and I'll show you what to do with your skin. Come next week, I'll show you what to do with the makeup. Now we start putting all of, I call it Humpty Dumpty, together in a way that she is more willing to accept than shock her into that one time change of look. And all of a sudden, she's not ready. She thinks she is, but she's not ready for it psychologically, emotionally. So I have to kind of learn early on to take baby steps. But when I am done with that individual, they will be so extremely self-confident, happy. Also, I teach them how to apply the makeup, how to style the hair. I do things for the hair that are not complicated because not every woman is handy, though women tend to be more handy than men, obviously, with hair. But I want them to make it easy because to me, hair should be not confusing or complicated. You can do so much with hair that makes you look attractive without becoming an exercise in how to go about it. And same thing with makeup. But I look at that person, I study the person to bring out the best in them so they can have that self-confidence, self-assurance. And the most important word that I see, they like what they look like. They like what they're seeing.
Well, okay, so taking these women that are on the screens, on the screens all the time and all that stuff. When you said you asked them what they liked about themselves and what they didn't like, which was longer? Did they have a longer list of what they don't like than what they do like?
Most of the
I
time,
would.
most of the time, surprised they don't know what they like. They get confused in that question. What is it that you like or don't like? And they have to think about it. Because I'm asking a question as a professional that I'm demanding an answer that's not confusing to me, let alone to you. And I want to be able to understand what is it that they see in themselves, because I'm really asking, you know what that question really is? How do you see yourself? What is it that you like and don't like is telling me, how do you see yourself? Well, I asked that question of Audrey Hepburn. She says to me, please, I've always been somewhat self-conscious of my nose. I couldn't understand that woman is perfection. Oh no, in her eyes, her nose was out of proportion and it was a little bit of a hump, and she did not, no, she shared this with me. Women generally tend to look at the hole in the donut, not the whole donut, as I always said. And in her case, it was about her nose. And I said, Miss Hepburn, there's nothing. I mean, you have the most beautiful profile in the world. She says, no, I'm so self-conscious. When I get photographed, I don't like to have a profile on me and blah, blah, blah. I showed her how to slim down her nose a little bit and all that, but I said, no, I'm not going to. I can't bring myself to take something that's so unique and beautiful and change it, because in your mind, you see an imperfection that really is not there. I was able to talk to her honestly, and she respected that in me and understood that, because I was trying to bring across to her something that, as I said, stop emphasizing the hole in the donut and look at the whole picture. See yourself as we all do when you're on the screen or in photograph or modeling or whatever it is. And we got along. That worked out. But here's a beautiful woman seeing the small imperfection. Jackie Kennedy always had a problem. Her eyes are set wide apart. She always wanted me with makeup to bring them closer together. So I showed her the tricks on how to do a deeper shadow inside and lighter shadows outside to bring the eyes closer together when she did it herself. And these are the little stories that I can share with the audience, that every woman, I don't care how famous you are, has always in their mind, something's going on that is not exactly the way they would like to see themselves. And they'll go out of search of pick and choose.
Yeah, and I wrote down that they see an imperfection that's not there. And I think it's super common for women to get hung up on something that doesn't even matter. And then as far as, and I think we'll get into on our next segment, the world and the world of the internet and how bullying affects young children and people everywhere, and they make fun of people and the way they look, and maybe your recommendations on how to handle that. But when you talk to these ladies that to us in the normal people in the world would look at and think, wow, I can't believe she even said that. How do you convince them that, I mean, do they ever get convinced that they're all right, or with the makeup trick, you know what I mean?
Well, that's why I shared with you what I just said regarding pointing out to her that she's seeing something that's really, she's exaggerating. And her sees it one way and the rest of the world sees it differently. So I'm trying to navigate with her to change the way we look at things, so the things you look at change. And that's something that I try to do with most of my clientele. If I ask that question, what is it you like or don't like, they will reveal to me quite a number of situations and quite a number of situations, things that I catch myself as a surprise, because I'm not seeing what they're explaining. And yet they're seeing it in a way that most of the world doesn't. So we become our most self-criticized individual. When we look at the mirror, I like to be there. My daughter, I was doing covers for the Vogue magazine and the interior shots for fashion designers and so forth. And she says, Daddy, I could never be a model like the kind that you're working on. And she was 17 at the time. I said, what are you talking about? First of all, why would you want to be a model? She says, no, I just they're so beautiful and they're so perfect. And that word perfect to me drives me nuts. And I said, let's stop right there. This is what you're seeing in that magazine, because I have the magazine that just came out, but my work was there. He says, look at these girls that you worked on, how magnificent they look, and blah, blah, blah. It's a 17-year-old. She's already projecting in herself, I'm not as pretty or as attractive as they are. I said, this is all make-believe, honey. Don't fall. Most women have to understand this. What you see in these so-called famous fashion magazines, popular fashion magazines, it's all make-believe. They have people like myself doing the hair, doing the makeup, the photographer with the lighting, the people with the designers and the clothing. Everything is pinned in the back to look perfect. And, it's all make-believe.
So would you call it an illusion?
Yes. No,
So we're all trying to compete with an illusion, basically, right?
But I took her once to a photo shoot. And I said, and most of those girls, when they come in, if they ask me to review them, because sometimes they do that, especially in runways, and they want me there to choose the models with the rest of I call the selection of people working for the designer. And we're all maybe 4 or 5 people. And, the models come in with their books. They show the book. Okay, you fit for what we need next. And, and you spend a whole day review. It's like a lineup of women walking by, young women, showing their books to hopefully get hired as models, and their agencies are sending them. And I took my daughter with them, and I said, most of these girls, none of them look like they do in the photos. Some of them look very plain Jane, not even that so-called, what everybody says, super attractive. No, but in the hands of people like myself, we'll create magic. And with their talent to walk down a runway, putting on a dress that is fitted to them to perfection, yes, anybody can look good. I can make anybody look good. I really can. I have a segment that I did on the Joni Lamb show. This is a show in Texas. And she took from the audience 5 women in all shapes and sizes. We spent 2 days filming this. And I took those 5 women and we found the right clothing for them. And then we did the hair and the makeup. They came on stage afterwards. You saw the before, and the day later, you saw the after. They wanted to divorce their husbands. They would look so beautiful, And yes, that magic can be done on the average person, but it takes talent like myself and other people that surround me to make that all happen in a way that's impressive. And that's why you get the magazines and you fall for the so-called illusion.
So what is the moral of this story?
Work with what you've got. Accept yourself for who you are. Be happy. Like yourself. Appreciate yourself. I don't care if you think you're overweight or underweight, or you're short, or you're too tall, or you're too this, or your fingers are too. You'd be surprised what I hear from women so often. I say, ignore all that. Just put yourself together. Go to somebody who, like myself, in a way that understands image, so that they can look at your hair, they can look at the shape of your face. Begin there. The eyebrows. The eyebrows are the frames for the eyes. The hair is the frame for the face. So you want to take the framing of the face, which is the hair, and work with the structure of hair that you've got. I don't care if it's thin, straight, curly, frizzy, whatever. We can, as professionals, get something that is attractive that you can work with. And then study the face and recommend, if it's a makeup artist and the stylist can't do makeup, go to a makeup artist and say, I'm not looking to apply makeup. I'm looking to, how can I emphasize the best features of my face? Look at my face and
that's perfect. That is perfect. How to do makeup tricks to emphasize the best features of my face. I love that.
And it's either your lips or your eyes. That's how it works. So if you have beautiful lips, focus on the lips, less eye makeup, less makeup in general. If it's the eyes because you have gorgeous eyes, or you want to emphasize the eyes, then don't emphasize the lips so much. Go for the eyes more and work on how to line the eyes properly. But the eyebrows, I always say, women, invest with someone who knows how to work with eyebrows, to plug them correctly, and study. Don't just walk into the first shop you see and go ahead and say, do my brows. See how it's like picking a plastic surgeon. You want to see what they've done to be able to feel comfortable that they can study your brows and bring the best thing out of them, and the way they shape them and plug them and prepare them, and then work with your eye makeup slightly and use products for your lashes to strengthen them and fortify them. I have that lash mask that I formulated to strengthen and fortify the lashes, which has a hint of color. Oh, it's a wonderful product, lash mask. I'm plugging my product, but I do believe in it.
Oh, no, we're going to talk about that in the next show. And I'm interested in the lash stuff.
But it is about taking the best of what you can have. If somebody takes the time, a professional, to look at it, it's worth the investment. You don't have to go them and see them all the time. Just go that once or twice to understand how to go about it, and they can recommend to you, do this, do that, and then take it from there. But learn how to put yourself together. What colors? I told you in a conversation we had on the phone, I could walk into anybody's apartment, a woman's apartment. She's not there. And I can walk into her closet and I can know if she's warm or cool by the outfits that she has hanging in the closet.
Okay, well, we've got this and so much more coming, because now we're going to conclude this show, but we're coming back for part 2, where we're going to discuss Peter's fabulous products, and we're going to talk more about makeup and hair and being beautiful inside, and how you can portray confidence. So stick around, come to the Bootleggers app and check out this program and the next ones that are coming on. So thank you, Peter, and we'll be talking to you in just a little bit.
Looking forward. Thank you.
You have been listening to Darla Z, live from the Hollywood Room on the Bootleggers Music Group Radio. Be sure to check out all our shows and download our app at www.bootleggersmusicgroup.com. The Bootleggers Music Group is dedicated to bringing you uplifting, educational, and inspiring shows for the love of God, one tune, and one show at a time. Be sure to visit Darla Z at www.darlaz.com to learn more about your award-winning host. Thanks for listening to or watching the Bootleggers Music Group Radio. Executive producer, Paul E. Jones.